My name is Hussein Abedini. I'm the Deputy Director of the UK Office of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, and also speaking for the Foreign Affairs Committee of the NCRI. And welcome to this press conference. This is, we have two very special guests with us today. One is Mr. Struan Stevenson, who is a famous and very well-known expert on Iran and Iraq and other parts of the Middle East affairs. Mr. Stevenson later on will elaborate on his new book, and he's going to present his book, Ashraf 3, Rising from the Ashes. And also it's a report by him and his colleagues from the European Parliament who went there. I will give you an introduction of Mr. Stevenson later on. We also have Lord Clark of Hampstead, CBE, the former chairman of the British Labour Party. And Lord Clark is been, I think, now for nearly 3.5 decades, familiar with the issues of Iran and the Iranian resistance. And it was under Lord Clark that I think Mrs. Rajavi came to London. She was the guest of the Labour Party when Lord Clark, himself was the chairman of the Labour Party. And Lord Clark is here on behalf of many of his colleagues in the House of Commons and also in the House of Lords.
It's been a matter of great privilege to me to know people like Struan, who we are looking at his book today or considering what he's written. I say I'm privileged because with my background, I can't claim to be an academic or even the nice things that Hussein says about me. I'm just an ordinary person who for something like 35 years has been supporting the demand for freedom in Iran. But it is a privilege to be with Struan this morning. And every one of us in the Commons and in the House of Lords and in the all-party group for the call for democracy in Iran, every one of them, I'm sure, would like to have been here today to pay their tribute to this latest publication, which you'll never read in the British newspapers. The sad thing is that you'll never read what's going on in Iran. And so we've got to thank, we haven't got to, but we're delighted to thank Struan for his tireless efforts to place the truth in front of the British people and the world of what is actually going on, what's happened. And I would particularly like to mention that his writings have been a constant thorn in the flesh of the wicked and evil regime in Tehran. Because one thing they do not like is the truth. And in this book and others that Struan's written, you get the truth. But I particularly want to thank Struan today for his visits to Albania and to meet the people who suffered through the dreadful times in Ashraf and in Camp Liberty. What a name, Liberty. And he went there, Struan went, met the people, found out the truth, and is able to now tell the world about it.
Today, 80 million Iranians have had enough. Nationwide protests involving hundreds of thousands of Iranian citizens have raged, as Tony said, for more than 14 months now in towns and cities across the whole of Iran. Men, women, students, teachers, truck drivers, sugarcane workers, business owners, pensioners have taken to the streets in protest at the violence and larceny of the fascist clerical regime that has stolen Iran's wealth, oppressed its people, and waged proxy wars across the Middle East. Iran's middle class has virtually disappeared. Poverty is widespread. People now struggle to feed their families against a backdrop of power cuts, water shortages, soaring food prices, and unpaid wages. And instead of trying to mend Iran's broken economy, the mullahs have used their equivalent of the Gestapo, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, or the IRGC, to crack down on the demonstrators, murdering dozens, arresting, as Tony said, 7,000 since the protests began. But the Iranian people have lost their fear. They're openly demanding regime change. Iran is the most oppressive country in the Middle East. It executes more people per capita than any other country in the world. Here we have a regime that tortures, rapes, sodomizes, and executes political prisoners.